The house was too quiet, not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful, the kind that presses against your chest and makes your pulse race. Lila sat at the edge of the couch, hands folded tightly in her lap, staring at the front door as if she could will it open faster. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second felt heavier than the last. John paced slowly across the living room, running a hand through his hair. "They'll be here any minute." Lila didn't respond. Her thoughts were far away, back in the hallway at Grandma's house, where Noah had once stood small and uncertain, overhearing words he never should have had to carry. Back to the caseworker at her door. Back to the silence in Micah's voice. Back to the fear she refused to let control her. A car door shut outside. Lila's breath caught. The front door opened. Noah stepped inside first. He looked smaller than when he left. His shoulders were hunched, his backpack dangling loosely from one hand, his teddy tucked under the other arm like a shield. Behind him came Micah. His face was stiff, unreadable. "Hey, my baby." Noah walked straight into them. He pressed his face into her shoulder and wrapped his arms tightly around her neck. She held him like she was afraid he might disappear if she let go. John stood quietly behind her, watching. Protective, steady, silent. After a moment, Lila pulled back just enough to look into Noah's eyes. "What happened, sweetheart?" Noah swallowed hard. He glanced over his shoulder at his father. Micah shifted uncomfortably. Then Noah looked back at his mother. His voice trembled. "Grandma said, if I tell you something, I might not be able to come back here anymore." The words hit Lila like a physical blow. Her chest tightened, her vision blurred. Behind her, John's jaw clenched. Micah cleared his throat awkwardly. "Lila, we need to talk." She didn't look at him. Her focus was entirely on her son. "Baby, you can tell me anything. You will always come home to me. No one can take that away." Noah hesitated. Tears welled in his eyes. "I don't want to get in trouble." "You could never get in trouble for telling the truth." They moved to the couch together. Noah sat between Lila and John, small body tucked close to his mother. Micah remained standing near the doorway, arms crossed, distant. Lila took a slow breath. "Tell me what you heard, Noah." Noah looked down at his hands. His fingers twisted nervously around his teddy's ear. "I heard Grandma talking on the phone. She said you weren't good for me anymore." Lila felt her stomach drop. John leaned forward slightly. Noah continued, voice barely above a whisper. "She said, Daddy should try harder to get me to stay with him more. And that, if you didn't listen, they might make a big decision." Lila closed her eyes. A big decision. She knew exactly what that meant. Custody, control, possession. "I heard her say your name, and she said something about a judge." Lila's heart pounded violently. She turned slowly to look at Micah. "Did you know about this?" "My mom worries." "Worries? She is threatening my child's home." Noah shrank closer to her. John placed a steady hand on Noah's back. Micah shifted again. "I didn't tell her to say those things." Lila stood slowly, still holding Noah close. "But you didn't stop her either." Silence filled the room. Heavy, thick, uncomfortable. Micah finally stepped forward. He looked tired, older than his years, worn down by pressure from both sides. "She keeps saying you're changing Noah too much, that he's getting attached to John, that he might forget where he comes from." "Where he comes from?" "He comes from me. He lives with me. He is raised by me." Noah looked between them, scared by the tension. John spoke calmly. "Attachment to me doesn't erase his love for you, Micah. It doesn't erase his identity. It just gives him more people who care about him. I know that. But my mom, she doesn't see it that way." Lila studied him. For the first time, she saw not just an ex-husband, but a man torn between loyalty to his mother and responsibility to his son. "And what do you see?" Micah hesitated. Then he looked at Noah, at his small face pressed against Lila's chest, at the way he trusted her completely. "I see that he's safe here." Lila exhaled slowly, but the knot in her stomach did not disappear. That night, after Noah fell asleep, Lila sat at the kitchen table alone. The house was dark except for the soft glow of the lamp. John joined her silently, placing a cup of tea in front of her. She wrapped her hands around it but didn't drink. They're not going to stop. No, they're not. I thought if I stayed calm, if I didn't fight, they would eventually back off. And now my son is scared in someone else's house. Her voice cracked. Tears spilled over before she could stop them. John moved immediately, kneeling beside her chair. He took her hands in his. You are not failing him. You are protecting him in the only way you know how. I feel like I'm losing control. You're not losing control. You're deciding how to use it. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. Steady, strong, unwavering. She leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. For the first time in weeks, she let herself breathe. The next morning, Noah woke early. He padded into the living room, still clutching his teddy. Lila was already awake, sitting by the window watching the sunrise. Mommy? Come here, sweetheart. He climbed into her lap without hesitation. She wrapped her arms around him. Are you still worried? Noah nodded. I don't want to go back to Grandma's if she's mad. I will talk to Daddy about that. Noah looked up at her with big, serious eyes. Will you always fight for me? Lila's heart clenched. She cupped his face gently in her hands. Always, no matter what. A small smile crossed his face. He nestled closer into her arms. That afternoon, Lila called Micah. Not angrily, not desperately, calmly. They met at a nearby park, away from both families. Noah stayed home with John. Micah arrived looking uneasy. Lila sat on a bench beneath a large tree, hands folded in her lap. I need to be very clear with you. Noah will not be put in situations where adults threaten his sense of security. Ever again. I understand. If your mother cannot respect that, then Noah's time at her house will need to be reconsidered. My mom loves him. I don't doubt that. But love that frightens a child is not love. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Micah nodded. I'll talk to her. Not just talk. You must set boundaries. I will. That evening, Micah returned to his mother's house. The tension inside was immediate. His mother sat at the kitchen table, arms crossed, lips pressed into a thin line. Well, what did Lila say? She's not backing down. I knew she wouldn't. She told me that if you scare Noah again, he won't come here. She can't make that decision alone. Yes, she can, because he lives with her. So you're taking her side now? I'm taking Noah's side. Silence filled the room. His mother's expression shifted. Not to anger, but something colder, something calculating. Well then, we'll see how this plays out. Back at home, Lila stood in Noah's doorway that night. He lay sleeping peacefully, curled around his teddy, his soft breaths rising and falling. Rain tapped gently against the window. She whispered a quiet prayer. Lord, give me wisdom, give me courage, and cover my child. She watched him for a long moment, her heart full of both love and resolve. This time, she was not afraid. She would not live in constant anticipation of the next attack. She would stand firm. For Noah, for herself, for the life she was building with John. Later, John found her still standing there. He slipped his arm around her waist gently. She leaned into him without looking away from Noah. We're in this together. I know. He kissed her temple. And whatever comes next, we face it side by side. She finally turned to look at him. For the first time in a long while, she smiled. A small, steady smile. Over the next few weeks, things seemed to calm. No more surprise calls, no more whispered threats, no more unexpected visits from caseworkers. Noah appeared more relaxed. He laughed more, he slept better. He talked openly about both houses without fear. Micah, though still tense, kept communication respectful. Even Grandma grew quieter. Too quiet. Lila felt the shift, but she refused to let suspicion steal her peace. She focused on school, on Noah, on building a home filled with stability and faith. But somewhere beneath the surface, something was brewing. She could sense it, like a change in the wind before a storm. One evening, as Lila and John sat together helping Noah with his puzzles, there was a knock at the door. Not soft, not hesitant, sharp, authoritative. John stood slowly. Lila's heart began to race. She opened the door to find two people standing there, not the same caseworker as before. One woman, one man, both holding official folders. "Good evening, we need to speak with you regarding Noah." Lila felt the room tilt again. Behind her, Noah looked up from his puzzle, his small brow furrowed in confusion. John stepped forward protectively. "What is this about?" "We received new information regarding Noah's safety." Lila's breath caught in her throat, her pulse pounded in her ears. She looked at Noah, innocent, trusting, unaware of the weight of what was unfolding. Then back at the officials standing on her doorstep, and in that moment, she understood. The battle was far from over. The woman spoke again, her voice steady but chilling. "Given the nature of the concerns raised, we will need to conduct a formal review." Noah stepped closer to Lila, clutching her leg. She wrapped her arm around him instinctively. The man continued, his eyes meeting hers directly. "Until that review is complete, temporary arrangements may need to be considered." Lila's heart slammed violently. John's hand tightened on her shoulder. Noah looked up at his mother, fear shining in his eyes. And then the words fell like a hammer. "We may need to place Noah with his father temporarily, while this is investigated." Silence shattered the room. Rain began to fall harder against the windows. And for the first time since the wedding, Lila felt the full force of the storm descend.